good one to put on after the last photo that we just saw, because I think well, it's compelling to me in the same way, in a similar way to the last image. But this one also was a punch in the stomach, as I call it. It is it makes me very curious, for one thing, which is always a good thing. I mean, I do want to know what's going on there, even though it really doesn't matter. So in other words, I might first look, this is what happens with representational work, you know, I might look at it and I immediately say, gee, you know, what might she be experiencing? What is she looking at? In the way that I couldn't do with this work, which is why I find abstraction so liberating. But anyway, what happens is that then I just let that go, because it really doesn't matter. What matters is that this, this for me at least, evokes a certain mood. It creates a certain atmosphere that I'm very interested in, which is betwixt and between, literally and figuratively, again, emotionally and literally, behind the door with its cross imagery. You know, what's behind her thoughts, what is she thinking, her hands up in a way that suggests, obviously, something, an emotional feeling that's intense. Her expression. I find this work to be just compositionally very beautiful. I mean, the way it was put together, and to have the structure of the work and the emotional resonance equal each other, I find is difficult to accomplish. Because very often people do one or the other. A work can be very strong. You might look at it and see it's technically beautiful, but it doesn't move you. Or the other way. Sometimes something isn't done that well, but you find yourself looking at it over and over again. So for me, this has both aspects, which is why it makes it successful for me, and why I would be happy to live with a work like this, because I would find myself being curious and being encouraged to be that way, which is a state of mind that I like to be in. And just looking, I just saw something, I thought it wasn't there, yeah. I like also, when you look at the work, you'll see that obviously there's the cross image in the front, and there's the image of verticals and horizontals continues in the window behind her. It continues in the, it looks like shutters or on the left, I can't exactly tell what that is. Her fingers being vertical, her shoulders being horizontal. So there's a lot, you know, that again, for me, isn't ultimately why the piece works, but because it does have all that happening, and it does somehow, you know, the more I look at it, the more, in a sense, this woman, I mean, she could be wistful, she could be trapped. It's really up to the viewer to decide what's happening there. I don't know that the artist knows himself. Maybe you can tell us. But I don't know that it really matters. What matters is that it works for me, and this moment, you know, that I feel that it that when a work of art can capture a mood and convey it successfully, that's very difficult to do. So I like this work very much.
Now again, you'll only get a chance to really look at this when you're close up to it. So that is a prologue. I'm always fascinated by the way photographers, either consciously or unconsciously, reference other work. I've mentioned that a couple of times. It's particularly true in this regard. When I first saw this, I thought on two planes at the same time. The first instance, Dorothy Elaine, and on the second plane, Diana Arbus. In terms of Dorothy Elaine, his connection to and understanding of formal values, of the grayscale, which is important, the subtlety of the use of the grayscale, the ambiguity of the narrative. It could be suggestive of photojournalism, a photo that's been taken in reference to some particular article or other. At least that's initially. My background as a journalist makes me think in terms that way. So let's just for 1 second think about what Dorothy Elaine did. Well, she introduced America to its own poor work, the artist workers process. And at the same time, Dorothy Langell and Diane Arbus dealt with the, if you will, the sort of schizophrenic nature of modern America, particularly the environments of Manhattan. I never saw an image by Diane Arbus with a person looked normal, and then she would answer, what is that? Now the other thing is the iconography, intentional or not. And I find iconography more interesting when it's accidental, actually. White cross, her hands up against the cross, or the screen, or the glass if you wish. And then behind her, you have light coming in on the right-hand side, which is quite the opposite to the usual way people like photographs in the Western world. Because we read from left to right, there's a general tendency, quite unconsciously, to like photographs from left to right, because that's the way we read. If you look at an image from China, where people read from top to bottom, you'll notice not only in their painting, but in their photographs, they tend to like them from the top down. We look at paintings the way we read. Now, the other important thing is this, to me at least, is the eyes are clearly in this top left quadrant of the photograph. And the artist has noticed, as is the case with everybody on the planet, no exceptions, that one eye is horizontal and the other eye is angled. Genetically, the angle of your left eye or right eye, or the angled eye, is from your mother. So, the other thing is, the hair hangs down loosely, it's not coiffured, which gives it a sort of natural look in the obvious sense of the word. But the eyes are the interesting part of it in a sense, because the eyes are psychologically the complete opposite of the environment. The environment is uncluttered, seemingly very modern and crisp. The blinds suggest some part of the world where there's a lot of heat. Also, there is water on the glass, so either it's hot and muggy, or it's just rained, or it's going to rain, or some such thing. But he has included atmospherics in a minimalist photograph. Again, getting back to what I said about the painting before, the blue painting. The artist has unified two seemingly distinct traditions in American photography. He's bifurcated. And what I mean by that is he's taken two distinct traditions and created his own out of it. So another way of saying it is, A plus B makes AB, and Mr. AB did a good job.